some George Wendt in there?
I
We're gonna mix some George Wendt in there.
I got a bear switch. Wait, I got a really good George Wendt story. So he was on my podcast like 7 years ago. I tracked him down. It was actually relatively simple to get on my show, and we did like a little 5-minute interview, and then that was it. I hadn't seen him or talked to him or anything like that, and so I got booked to do a festival this past summer up in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Yeah, it's right on the border of Iowa, right by the Mississippi River. And so I went up there, and I'm driving up there. I'm like, I don't know anything about this little town. So I'm looking up all these little Wikipedia facts and stuff like
Blue
that.
Ox Festival?
I'm not sure what it was called.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But
got Mr. Wisconsin over here, so just go with it.
Yeah, just say okay.
If he says it, just say yeah.
yeah. All right, what part?
Brookfield.
Okay, I used to live in Menominee Falls.
Oh.
There you go.
There you go. God, you guys smell like cheese. I was wondering where that smell came from.
I could throw. You too. You betcha. Yeah. So anyway, we're driving up there, and I'm reading the stuff about Prairie du Chien, and George Wendt went to high school there back in the 60s. The high school that he went to was a Christian Brothers high school. Back in those days, it was a boarding school, all boys, and it's now a prison. It's now a prison.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I better not call him. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm always worried that if I call these guys, I'm going to get blackballed, even worse than I'm already blackballed. And so I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll call him. So I find his phone number in my old messenger feed with him, and I call him. I go, hey, George, it's Matt Kissane. I just want to let you know that I just did a gig in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. They said that you're a famous alum from up there. And I told him that why I was up there doing a gig and stuff. And so I was like, I don't even know if you remember me. And this was like probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I just hung up. I was like, why did I do that? She's never going to call me back. So like, I go to bed. It's like 11:30 at night. The same night, I get a phone call, and it's from like Las Vegas, and it's George. Sorry, I don't know why I'm having this gag reflex, but
because you're on our show.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are making me very, very nervous. Yeah. So he's like, he goes, "Are you awake?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so we talked for like 15 or 20 minutes.
Nice.
And I'm such a geek when it comes to these SNL guys. I've got to meet a handful of the older guys.
Did you say you hang up first?
He was just really sweet, and he was in an airport in Las Vegas. He was flying out to New York. His daughter was getting married that weekend. But we just talked, and then I was just like, then I turned into Chris Farley. I was like, so you remember when you hosted Saturday Night Live? You hosted it twice. And then I go, yeah, you were in a skit for It's Pat. Do you guys remember It's Pat?
Yeah.
He goes, it was a barber shop, and you were the barber, and you kept sweeping the hair off of Pat to see if she had breasts, because you wanted to see if she was a guy or a girl. Yeah. And he was just like, yeah. I go, yeah, I could just tell, like, he was like, telling his wife, get a restraining order on him. He knows way too much about me. So anyway, I totally geek out. Same thing happened when I did a corporate gig with Kevin Nealon years ago. And I talked about, I did a Chris Farley show skit, and I brought him up on stage, and he was my guest. Do you remember when you were on Saturday Night Live, that whole thing? And then I go, do you remember that skit you did with Joe Pesci where you guys were in the Pinky Ring store? And he's just sitting there on stage with me, and he goes, yeah. Yeah, I do remember that. I could just tell you to think about it. Right. So like backstage, I see him like right after the skit, he goes, that was a great Foley, man, great Farley. I go, yeah, when you were in that skit with Joe Pesci, I go, you were awesome. I go, you were flawless. You didn't make any mistakes. And that was a perfect skit, man.
Nice.
And I could just tell he was like, I can't even remember. He couldn't believe anybody even remember the one line. But if you ever see that skit with Joe Pesci, it's called the Ring, the Pinky Ring or something like that. Or it's one of the funniest skits.
I've been watching all
It's one of the funniest skits in the history of SNL. And Joe Pesci is really, really at his game.
I love watching the old ones.
The old ones are classics.
I was going to ask you this. What do you think of the the way it is now? SNL. Do you watch it?
I'm always a fan of the show. I'm always rooting for it. I never want it to fail. Unfortunately, a lot of times it does. But I mean, you going back. I mean, there were some really bad skits, even in, like in the Belushi Aykroyd era. I mean, they weren't always that.
There's some rough years.
Yeah, they but for the most part, I mean, I'm always rooting for the show, the new cast members.
Yeah.
I was always bummed out when I was a young comic. I was like, I'll get on that show one way or another, But as my 20s went by, my 30s, my 40s. Now I'm almost 60.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, probably not gonna get on.
You gotta blow Lorne. It's the trick.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Hey,
So I want to go back to something that you said. You said